Hey bloomers, welcome to the very first episode of Rooted and Blooming podcast. This is a space where we are rooted in Christ and blooming in purpose. So make sure you plug in, grab yourself a drink because you're in for a ride. During the intro, we talked about delayed obedience, which I touched slightly on. And it's something that I wanted us to discuss because I feel like disobedience is something that is so subtle, but yet the damage and or the consequences are so conspicuous. Let me backtrack and give you guys a story on when I disobeyed God and it costed me money. Not just my money, but my partner's money as well. When I mean a partner, I mean business wise. So let me start with back in 2023. I was in church. It was around August, and I was in church after Sunday service. It was approaching the end of the service, and I was making tea at the back of the church and making bread for people to eat after the service. So when I was in church, when I was making the tea, I heard the voice of God audibly, and he gave me a business name, and he told me the business to start. At that time, it didn't make sense, but I immediately stopped making tea, rushed to my seat, grabbed my notebook and wrote it down so that I do not forget. The devil steals, so I do not forget. So when I wrote it down, I went back to making tea, and then later on during the week is when I was reviewing the notebook and thinking, okay, so God has given me a business name and a business idea that I should actually do. And at that time, I was so excited because I have done so many businesses. By the way, I have done so many. It gets to a point that I remember there was a season that my family was actually making fun of me and telling me the only thing that I'm left to do is fly a plane, because I've done literally everything. I'm a risk taker, and once I think this business can bring me money, I'll go for it. So in that particular time, I was like, okay, I think this business that God has told me and has led me to it actually is something that he wants me to do. And I felt like, okay, this one that God has led me, this one is going to thrive. This one is going to thrive. It was not a business in line with what I do right now. And in case you're watching me for the first time, I'm an interior designer by profession. That's what I do. And it was not something in line with interior or real estate, nothing. It was a completely different field. At that time, it was in August, as I mentioned. I didn't have the finances to start the business. So I delayed, and I was like, okay, God, you've given me the business idea. I started researching. I created a mood board for the business when I open it, and I came up, together with the name that I got from God, I created a logo and all that. Yani, I was ready to, once I get the money like this, I'm up and running. When it comes to interior design, Q4 is our busiest season. So in that particular season, everybody is trying to make their home beautiful because of Christmas and hosting and all of those things. So in August, we were not that busy, but when it got to like September, October, we were so busy. We had so many clients. 2023 was our best business year yet. I feel like that season, because of the idea that God gave me, when there's this saying that people say, when God leads, he provides. I'm telling you, in that season, I got so much business, and it was the season that I had the highest number of employees, even full-time, because we had so many projects running at the same time, and it was just a good end of year or Q4 season for us. So when it got towards the end of Q4, around end of October there, I was like, okay, so we've gathered some money. And also, as a family, for me and my siblings, there's a unit that we had disposed, or not even disposed. There's a unit we sold off as a family, and we got like a lump sum chunk of money that came in together. So in that season, we are wondering how we are going to invest the money. And when we were talking with my bro, we were like, okay, for me, I think I can start a business. At this particular point in time, between August and end of October, I had already forgotten the business idea that the Lord had spoken to me. So I have this business notebook that I write down stuff about business and ideas, what to do. Maybe when I'm listening to a podcast and I hear something about business, I just note it down. So at that particular season, we started discussing about how we're going to reinvest this money somewhere else. And we thought of interior, like a business in line with what I do, like interior shop, a decor shop, and something of that sort, which is going to kind of blend so well with what I'm doing, which makes so much sense. During that season, as we were having that conversation with my bro, I went back to my notebook, and when I was scrolling, I got to the page where I wrote the business idea that God gave me in August and the name. But at that point, I was like, okay, God told me to do this, but let me hold it off first. You know, that moment that you're using your wisdom instead of God's wisdom. Oh my goodness, let me tell you, I held it off first, and then I decided, let's do this business idea. So here I am. We talk with my bro. We are like, okay, let's go and look for a shop. I had already visualized a whole lot in my mind when we started having that conversation, how I wanted the decor shop to look like. Of course, we didn't have enough funds for us to get that aesthetic, like exact aesthetic that I wanted, but I felt like we can get something substandard, slightly substandard to the vision that I had, that is going to work us towards the actual vision. I hope I'm making sense. So we started looking for a shop beginning of November. We settled on a location, which is Nairobi CBD, because we felt like the CBD is the most central place for everyone to access us. And we were like, yes, we are locked in the CBD. So we start shop hunting. That's me, my bro, and our friend. We're going around to different places, talking to realtors who can help us to get a shop. And then we got an amazing shop location. It was in Uptown in Koinange Street. They had like 2-3 shops that were available there. And the shop was rustic. It didn't have any tiles. It didn't have any gypsum. It was like a complete shell that we had to get in and do the whole interior for us. As an interior designer, I thought, okay, this is a point of marketing for myself, because most of the time at that season we were working with residential spaces only. We never got the chance to work on a commercial space. So I was thinking this is a great time for me to showcase how we can actually work on commercial spaces, businesses, shops, and all that. So we look at the shop, we are locked in, the rent is okay, and we are locked in. So we started the signing process and the documentation process, and we signed in, and we got a lease agreement for around maybe an year or 2 years. No, the lease was actually for 6 years, but to terminate the lease, you have to give a 1 month notice. So we did all that, and by the time it was end of mid-November, we had secured the shop. So now it's time to start the renovations, do the interior of the business. And at this time, I was documenting everything, because I was hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm starting my business, and I'm also showing off on my interior design business that I can actually work on a commercial space, because when it comes to clients, seeing is believing. So we bought the tiles, we bought the gypsum, we bought the lighting, we bought the shelving and the cabinetry, the locks, the branding. I actually custom made a whole reception stand. I got a brand name at the back, and anytime you are walking in, you could see the name of the business. We got a computer, a whole point of sale system, because at this point, this business was supposed to be like a side hustle, and it's not a business that I wanted, a business that that could self-run itself together with my bro, because none of us had the time to actually sit in the shop to sell and to ensure the business is running. So I know you're wondering which business this was, and if you've been here for a minute, I know you've heard me mentioning Deluxe Homes. Yes, Deluxe Homes was actually my business. When I started the business, I did not want to make it known out there that it was actually my business. Yes, I'm on social media, but I'm still a very, very private person. There is a lot. And when I say a lot, there is a lot of things that people don't even know about me on social media. And there's a lot that people don't even see, because I feel like there is a limit to social media and content creation and my personal life. I don't want to put so much out there that it later damages my personal life. I still want to have that, private, personal life, and then still content creation and influencing. By the time it was 1st of December, the business was up and running. We got an employee, a nice young lady that was working for us. And in that season, as I mentioned, Q4 was our busiest. So every time I got a client, I used to go and get stuff from the shop, actually buy from the shop, buy everything that we were selling, from duvets to decor to some kitchen items. When it comes to our interior design business, I do not replicate what we've done, not unless a client is insistent. We rarely replicate what we have done in different homes. So anytime someone could come and shop, we used to spend the capital and stock up different items so that we don't have a repetition. And also, I'm doing business and I'm still purchasing from my shop. So it's a win-win. And by the time we were starting this business, I wanted to completely get myself out of the business and ensure my bro is out of the business, such that it's a self-running and managing business. With the POS, it's going to help know the profit margins, the losses, and the profits that were coming in. It was also helping us to manage everything. When it started 2024, most of the time, the first 1 month or 2 months in interior, they are our lowest season or lowest months, because so many people their funds or their accounts are recuperating from all the expenditure that they made in December and during the holiday season. Some people are taking their kids to school, so it's our lowest months. And then at this time, remember, we had made quite a number of sales from my clients in 2023 December. So having the thought of, it's January, not many people are shopping. Business was low in January. Business was very, very low in February. And I'm talking about Deluxe Homes. I forgot to mention something. When we were signing the contract of the house, we got so much favor with the business people at that place, and we got a whole month free. So once we paid our rent and deposit for 2 months in end of November, beginning December, the next time we were paying rent was in March. So we had a whole 2 months plus a month free. Was it a month or 2 months? Yes, a month free of rent. Can you imagine? When we were starting the business with my bro, you were like, hey, look at God's favor. Oh my goodness. At this time, God is just looking at me like, okay, so this is what you're doing, and I told you what to do. Let me tell you guys, the funds that my brother and I brought together from the unit that we had sold off as a family, was about, let's say, 400 to 500, I think around 400 to 500k. I'm speaking in Kenya shillings. Currency is Kenya shillings. So now the money was not enough, because renovating that shop and having those shelves and everything cost about 300, and 200k is not enough for stock, especially when you're doing interior design or you're having a decor shop. It's not even half the shop. So the other funds to stock up the shop came from all the savings, and majority, not all, 80% of the profits that I made in 2023. So I took all my money and I put it in Deluxe Homes. So now, fast forward, we are entering March and we are paying the first rent. Remember, January and February were our lowest months yet. And every sale and every money that went into the shop in December, we reinvested that money back into the business. And it was capital again for us to be able to grow the business, have more variety, and stock up a few more things that were coming in, so that we are up to date and we are stocked up. So it's in March. We didn't sell in January and February, and I need to pay rent. That was the first time I went back to my pocket. And I went back to the savings. Remember, I had already spent 80% when we were starting the shop. So the first month and the second month of January, I'm surviving from the 20% of the savings that I had left. And now it's March and the business is already demanding for money from my pocket. So I was like, we are just finalizing with Q1. I know Q2 is going to be amazing. Business is going to pick up and everything is going to go very well. Let me tell you, at that time, in January, I remember God had spoken to me to actually move out from home because I was living at my late mom's home, and God spoke to me to move out. So by the time it was end of March, that's when I moved out from home and I moved into my own space with my daughter. And it was a 2-bedroom space that I felt is going to be, befitting for us, and we're going to be comfortable and all that. By the time we are moving into our own space, we do not have any furniture and anything in the house. We had like 1, 2, 3 things in the house. We didn't even have a sofa. We didn't even have gas or anything. So that day when I was moving in, my friends were helping me to move. And when I was moving in, we were like, okay, we can have a cup of tea. When we were about to I'm going to the kitchen to make tea. Oh, that's when it dawned on me. I don't even have gas. I had to rush out to get gas. So you guys can imagine how much money I spent when I moved. There's the rent, the deposit, and all that. Don't forget, Deluxe Homes is not doing so well. All this time, when you're out of line with God, He just looks at you and waits for the right time to give you a hot slap. There's this scripture in the Bible that says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. At that moment, that was my rod season where God was, disciplining me. But at that time, it didn't dawn on me that things are starting to fall out of place. So it's in April. We just moved in. In March, I had gotten, I think, 1 or 2 interior design clients for small spaces. I think there were 2 Airbnbs. Those ones, we do them in a week and we are good. So now it's in April and I have moved into my own home. April again, I paid rent for the shop. I paid the lady who's there her salary and the shop expenses. We are talking about around 55,000 Kenya shillings because the shop rent was 30,000, and now combine everything, electricity, the salary of the lady, because she was a very young lady and we are starting out, so you are not paying her a lot of money. So a cost of around 55K. It's beginning of April, it's chucked out of my account and I just moved into a new space. Let me tell you, I know you're going to do another season or episode, not season. I know you're going to do another episode where we're going to talk about the season when God is quiet, because the moment I moved into that house, from April up until beginning of September, I did not have a single interior design client, not even one. Remember, Deluxe Homes is not stable. I moved. I have my own expenses, my own rent. I have a nanny. I have shopping. I have a child I'm taking care of. I'm living off interior design, and Deluxe Homes is living off interior design, which is Interiors by Agatha. So I'm here. Fast forward, the first month of April, we are done. We moved to May. we had a few walk-in clients, and in that season I literally had to spend my own money to buy items. And because I needed a few items for the house, kitchen items and all that, every time I used to buy items, I used to say everything I got was from Deluxe Homes, so that I would market the shop as well. So I'm spending money on the business, on my house, and I'm also spending money stocking up my house to market the business. Let me tell you mine. Got to May, we are getting a few clients. Most of the clients we are getting, because we did not have a lot of stock, anytime someone purchases something, we spend that money to replace the stock that has gone and add a few things here and there and maybe pay some bills. But by the time it was in June, I was hitting rock bottom. I was going bananas. That is the season where I gained weight and got to the size that I am in right now. For me, I'm the kind of person that when I'm stressed, I gain weight. My body is like an elastic. This is what stress does to me. But then after stress going back, it's very hard. So in that season, we are in June, I had to go back to my mentors. I had to go back to my friends, and I had to inquire and tell my friends. At that time, I remember I had a sit down with ONR. You guys know her. She is amazing when it comes to money and finances, and Kane and Jojo. And I told them, girls, I feel like I'm going to go crazy because this is what has been happening. This has actually been my business, and not many people actually knew that Deluxe Homes was mine and my bro. And at that time, I told them I'm going crazy. So everyone was telling me it's okay to actually take a step back. I went to my mentors, Pastor Judy and Pastor Nick, and all they could say is it's okay to step back. When life gives you lemons, before you make a lemonade, just take a break. Just take a break before you squeeze that lemon into a lemonade. Just take a break. It's okay to close down. Whenever you're stable, you're going to start that shop again. So in the beginning of July, I gave a notice that we're going to be closing in August. In this season, I was in a bad state. I was in a bad mental state. I could not even imagine that I'm closing down this business. What do you mean? I put all my money here. And by the way, that's 20%. It was going down. At this point, I think I had like 2% left. I couldn't even afford paying my house rent and paying the shop rent. I was hitting rock bottom. And in that season, when I was praying and asking God, why did you leave me? Why did you forsake me? What is happening? I opened this business for it to be like a side hustle, for it to actually help me, boost me and uplift me, move me from one step to another and increase my financial income. But this business is turning into a thorn in the flesh. Whoa, let me tell you, that's when the Lord reminded me that the money I gave you was supposed to start the business that I spoke to you about in August 2023, not actually do a startup, an interior design or decor shop. Let that sink in, because sometimes when God speaks to us, we tend to drift away. And I feel like most of the preachers really focus on not tithing, really focus on sexual perversion and sexual immorality and divorce and all those things. But not many preachers actually talk about disobedience and how subtle disobedience is, but it has the most oblivious consequences. Because when you look at the Bible, you can see Moses, he didn't even enter the promised land after all the miracles that God did through him. He didn't even enter the promised land because of disobedience. When God told him to hit a rock, do you remember that story in the Bible? We have the case of Jonah. God just looked at him when he was, when God sent Jonah to Nineveh. God was just looking at him. Like when he was fleeing away from Nineveh, he went to that beach, boarded that boat, and God was just looking at him. When he had settled, when you think all is well, boom, the storm hits you. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I ended up closing down the business in August. The beginning of August, we had to move the items from the shop. We still have let me just be honest, it's almost 2 years down the line, and we have not even been able to clear up like all the stock. We haven't been able to clear up all the stock, because when it comes to Interiors by Agatha, I try to run it with a lot of integrity so that I do not just impose the decor pieces that I have. If they are not working, they're not working for a client space, and we do not like to replicate, as I mentioned. So right now, we closed down the shop. We still have some decor pieces left, and when we closed the shop in August, and I just told God, and I entered into a season of repentance. Oh God, I truly repent. If you don't hold me right now, I'm done, because at that point, even affording my own house rent was a hassle. That's when I got my first interior design client after that season of drought, that season where God had gone silent on me. And that's when I started now rebuilding myself. Remember, all my savings are gone. My brother's money is gone. At this point, we had spent over 1 million on that business. Talk about the stocks, the rents, the salaries, the expenses. It was more than 1M. By the time we were closing down, we had stock of almost around 600. When we were looking at our POS, around 600 something worth of stock. So when you combine with all the expenses we had spent there, we lost over 1M in business. My disobedience, actually, my brother believed in my idea, and I actually made him lose money. So those are the consequences of disobedience. So in this season, I do not know what God is speaking to you about. I don't know what God is telling you to do in this particular season, but what I'm going to tell you, it may not make sense to you. Your wisdom is not God's wisdom. Mathematically, if one can chase 1,000, two can chase 2,000. But in the Bible, one can chase 1,000 and two can chase 10,000. God math is not girl math. God math is not your math. His wisdom is not our wisdom. He sees what we cannot see at the end of the tunnel. So have I been able to recover completely from that business loss till date? Not completely. I would not say I have completely recovered. Here we are. I have learned. I have learned from disobedience. I have learned from disobedience. So today, I want to pose a reminder, or maybe ask you a question about what God is speaking to you in your season. Right now, what is God leading you to actually do? And if you figure it out, even though it doesn't make sense to you, just do it. Just do it. It may not make sense to you, but trust you me, He has an idea, because He will not lead you where you will fail. Even though He leads us, it might be shaky and stormy in the middle, but I'm very sure at the end of the day, you're not going to drown, you're not going to lose everything, you're not going to be on the losing end. You are going to be on the winning end. So I hope this podcast and first episode has been a blessing to you. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. I'd love to know your experience about disobedience and all that. And if you enjoyed, please share this video and make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on our socials, Rooted and Blooming on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and here on YouTube. And if you're listening to me on your Spotify or your podcast app, please make sure you hit the like button and leave a comment so that when someone is coming to listen, they can know what to expect. And that is it for today's video. I'm gonna see you bloomers on the next episode.